Sometimes when I get into a conversation with somebody and we talk about political things, we often disagree and have a good time talking about it. But every once in a while, I will mention that really what needs to happen is that politicians need to stop being able to take money from anybody. And whether the person I'm talking to is on the left or on the right, almost everybody agrees that that would solve so many problems. I remember seeing a study once where they compared what wealthy people wanted, what policies they wanted enacted in Congress versus what regular people wanted. And then they compared that to what was actually voted in by the Congress people. And by and large, Congress people vote the way rich people want them to vote. And of course, they get reelected by how much money they get for their campaign. You can almost, it's not a cut and dry thing, but you can almost predict who's going to win by who gets the most money. Costs a lot of money to run a campaign. So if somebody wants to be a career politician, they need to get reelected. And in order to get reelected, they need people to give them money. That's how it's set up. It doesn't have to be set up that way, but that is how it's set up right now. So corporations or groups or just wealthy individuals go to the congressperson and say, here, I want to give this money to your campaign. And by the way, can you do me a favor? Now, most people, normal human beings, have a really strong urge, desire, impulse to repay in kind. If somebody does you a kindness, you want to repay it. And it's such a powerful and fundamental principle of human nature that when Robert Cialdini wrote a book called Influence, he has only 6 principles of influence. This is what persuaders and salespeople use to convince you to do something, to say yes, to buy something. And one of the 6 principles is reciprocity, is this probably genetically inborn need to reciprocate when somebody does something for you or gives something to you. And also socialized, your parents started from a really young age, made sure that you gave back, that you didn't just take from other people. It's really, really important part of human relationships. And it's so when somebody gives, when a corporation or a wealthy person gives $50,000 or $100,000 for a politician's campaign and then asks for a favor, it's a little difficult for normal people to say no. As a matter of fact, Congress understands this principle well enough that they did the same thing with pharmaceuticals being able to influence doctors. It used to be the pharmaceutical companies had carte blanche. They could schmooze doctors all they wanted. They would buy doctors memberships to golf and country clubs. They would take them out to dinner for lobster and caviar dinners. They could do whatever they wanted. And Congress recognized that, this is not a good idea. These doctors should be making decisions about what they prescribe to their patients based on what the patient needs, not based on that they owe, somebody at some pharmaceutical company a favor, right? They shouldn't feel that they owe pharmaceutical companies. That's not a good position for them to be in. So Congress passed laws that limit how much a pharmaceutical company can schmooze a doctor. And that's good. So Congress understands the principle. But however, they have not passed any law similar for themselves. And of course, they couldn't or wouldn't, probably, because that's the way the system works. And if I'm a corporation and I just gave you $200,000 for your campaign, and then you go propose a bill like that, you're no longer my friend, and you're certainly not going to get my contribution next year. You know what I mean? So it would be very difficult for this law to pass, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible to pass a law like that. These kinds of things, then, really the best way to approach this is to go grassroots, is to go, do something in a city and then do something in a county and in a state and go state by state. That's how, women got the vote. There were powerful forces against women getting the vote. One of the most powerful was the alcohol industry, because they felt that if women got the vote, they would vote in prohibition. They were afraid of this, and so they really didn't want women to get the vote. So federally, it went nowhere. Any proposed bill to get women to vote went nowhere. It had no support, or very, very little support. So they went state by state. And there's an organization called Represent.us, which I strongly urge you to support. They have some great videos. They're working state by state, city by city even, passing laws, getting policies enacted that would prevent this kind of corruption, which is what it is. If somebody can give a politician money and then ask for a favor, that's corruption. That's basically bribery. It's legal. The way it's set up, it's perfectly legal, but it's not right and it's not good. And Represent.us is doing things about it. And so you can look them up. But they pointed out that a lot of laws that were really impossible to get passed in Congress were able to get passed state by state. And then when there's a certain momentum or certain critical mass that's reached, and then it can go federally. And that's what happened with women getting the vote. That's what right now is happening with marijuana legalization. And same thing with marijuana legalization. There are powerful forces trying to block it federally. Again, the alcohol industry doesn't want marijuana to be legal, and also pharmaceutical companies are lobbying against it because they found that a lot of people would rather just smoke some pot and take care of their pain that way rather than get a pharmaceutical drug that may have serious side effects or whatever. So those two lobbies are pretty powerful. Alcohol lobby and the pharmaceutical lobbyists, pretty powerful. So it's going state by state, and it is gaining state after state. And at some point, it'll hit some critical mass, and it'll get passed federally because the voters desire it. And this is one of those places where even voters can outvote somebody with money. So if you believe that this is something that needs to be done, I urge you to look up Represent.us. And also, we've got a Facebook page called End Political Contributions. Like us, share those things. We post things on there once in a while that you can share with other people that turn them on to this possibility. Because just because it has been this way for a long time doesn't mean it can't be changed. And it should be changed. It would definitely solve a lot of problems. And there's several other countries have done this kind of thing and how they pay for because the question is, okay, so then if you want to run for office, how do you do it? If you're not allowed to get any money from anybody, how do you do it? And there's several ways that have been proposed and used to do it. One is that each politician gets a certain amount of airtime, or they do it with debates, televised debates, or whatever. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it that still allow them to go, giving speeches and and having airtime on television or whatever, without having to pay for it, and just make it equal. Whoever's running against whoever else, it's equal. They can get equal airtime and equal debate time or whatever. And then they can go out and give speeches all they want, as long as they're not getting paid for it. As long as they're, and you would probably get a different caliber of politician under conditions like that, and it would probably be better. It would probably be better in a whole bunch of ways. So if you think this is a good idea, then I invite you to follow us on Facebook and follow Represent.us too, and tell your friends. This is important, and it could be done. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb.